Light gusts of wind carry snatches of other people's conversations. "Were you there yesterday?" the girl asked her friend, hearing in response that people have been talking about this event lately. Loud swearing can be heard from drivers who almost collided on the same lane. "You should have seen his mug." A guy on a bike laughs loudly as he discusses with someone on the phone whether his boss will raise his salary. "This area is a dump," he says, looking in surprise at the back of a homeless man walking past. And the homeless man slowly wanders forward, looking at the people around him with bewilderment. He stops abruptly and clenches his fists in shock. People passing by talk to each other in surprise, trying to understand who this man is and why he is standing there. Meanwhile, he continues to stand in place with an expression of obvious shock on his face. His deep shock gives way to anger and indignation. How noisy it is here, the guy thinks, getting lost in the whirlpool of sounds. That strange man in the middle of the street is Emperor Yomru. There is no doubt that he is the strongest flame emperor. Yomru knows neither pity nor tears, appearing in the guise of a man, but in reality not being one for a long time. Wherever he went, he left behind a trail of blood and the cries of the victims. The emperor was none other than the god of death, who had once killed the supreme master of the dark path, Murim, and it was he who forced the leader of the heavenly demon cult to kneel. For these feats, he is considered the main master among all light and dark warriors. Everyone knows that Emperor Yomru is the god of martial arts. The picture is replaced by a peaceful view of houses bathed in sunlight. A young man looks thoughtfully at the landscape, comfortably seated on a huge boulder. "My past now seems like a dream," he thinks. "I thought there could be nothing else in my life except blood and violence." He recalls himself standing confidently on his feet with a bloody sword in his right hand. A memory flashes through his mind of a little long-haired girl laughing cheerfully, showing him a full hem of petals. Yomru doesn't understand how she sees beauty in these flower petals. "You don't know what joy is?" the girl snorts indignantly in response. She looks down at the dandelion in her palm with a smile, explaining that joy is when you laugh and dance with happiness, even if there is no particular reason for it. "Someday you will understand this, but for now I will share my joy with you." The little girl hands him a flower. The man accepts the gift, carefully squeezing it between his fingers. Meeting this girl melted the emperor's heart, and he suddenly learned what tears and laughter were. He didn't know that joy would ever appear in his life, full of chaos and evil. Maybe he should also go in search of happiness? Or, on the contrary, should he not get carried away with laughter and tears? The man throws his head back, continuing to think. "Have I really achieved eternal immortality?" flashes through his mind. Flower petals curl around the man, twisting into a spiral. They envelop him from head to toe, completely hiding him from view. The petals scatter and the emperor's consciousness becomes clear. Gradually, Yomru comes to his senses, beginning to realize what is happening. He opens his eyes with difficulty, looking upward. Through the darkness, the man can barely make out the vaults of the cave hanging above him. "Where am I?" The emperor jumps up sharply, frantically looking around. Just now he was on the path to immortality, and now he finds himself in some unknown place. It may be just an illusion, but he needs to find a way out of here anyway. Yomru stands up and freezes warily, sensing some movement behind him. He looks around sharply and sees a huge one-eyed cyclops right behind him. The scene ends abruptly with the slow fall of cherry blossom petals. Before us appears a picture of a half-destroyed city. The red flash of the portal illuminates everything around, shining brightly in the darkness. On command, the Alpha Group goes straight to this portal. Their task is to conduct reconnaissance and return alive from this mission. The group moves cautiously deeper into the cave. This portal is an A-class portal. The smartest monsters live here. The group quietly discusses their task. It has already been 5 years since the incident when the guards of the Zero Group died in a similar situation. They went deep into the portal, and there a whole darkness of monsters awaited them. None of the Zero Group survived. "Excuse me," one of the Alpha team members coughs awkwardly and is asked to be quiet. The silhouette of one of the monsters flickers in the darkness of the cave. The Alpha Group freezes in alarm and looks around. No one even felt the presence of the monster. He hid so well, as if he were pretending to be dead. "Commander, look!" one of the guys shouts. "Retreat, I'll hold him off." However, to everyone's surprise, the Cyclops turns out to be truly dead, as well as a huge number of other monsters scattered around him. The entire group is shocked by the sight before them. The commander contacts the base, relaying information about the numerous corpses of Class A Cyclops and Class B monsters. The group decides to continue reconnaissance. The group's commander leans over the remains of the monsters, looking at them thoughtfully. Even if these monsters fought among themselves, the giant Cyclops could not be injured in this way by the lower monsters. This means that another guild was hunting in this place, which is interesting, because guilds have recently been raiding only high-level portals. At the same time, Emperor Yomru emerges from the portal. He freezes at the exit, looking around. What is this place? He wonders. Opening his eyes in the cave, he found himself among a crowd of terrible monsters. I wonder why these monsters, which he can kill with one blow, attacked him in the first place. Somehow he managed to find a way out of that cave. What are these ruins? Is there life left in them? Having found someone's skeleton near a tree, a man borrows his half-rotted clothes. Once again, Emperor Yomru found himself in an unfamiliar place. There are only ruins around him, and a complete absence of signs of life. Yomru is sure that this is the work of followers of the cult of the heavenly demon. These sorcerers used forbidden magic, and the Emperor feels something similar to this magic right now. He needs to get out of here somehow. The man goes to where this black energy is felt the least. He could clear the environment of such magic, but first he needed to look around. Yomru leaves the strange place at high speed. He leaves behind all these destroyed buildings. The portal gapes menacingly behind him. The Emperor reaches the nearest town, where on one of the streets there is a cozy restaurant called Yangchunggak, which means Spring Pavilion. The Korean Awakened Association has not yet expressed a clear position on this incident. In America and China, where there are awakened level zeros, there are discussions about this portal. A large TV on the wall is broadcasting. When will we be served jjajangmyeon? Asks a couple at one of the tables. The restaurant's senior manager, Lim So-yoon, who is also the director Sun Tae's wife, hurries over to them with a smile. The girl is welcoming and friendly to all the restaurant guests. It's been a long time since you visited us, she says to a young man entering the room. This is the director of the Awakened Association, Baek Yoon-ho. He sits down tiredly at the nearest table. Yoon-ho tells the manager that another portal opened today and he has to burn out at work trying to calm down the conflict between the guilds fighting over it. There is a lot of pressure on us. Because of the magic stones, everyone wants to get their hands on this portal. The man sighs tiredly. The restaurant's director, Yu Sun-tae, just approached and nodded to him in understanding. This workload is killing the restaurant staff, while at the same time having some advantages. In particular, the large number of magic stones on the market means a reduction in their price. However, of course, the monsters are not at all pleasing, and the number of clients has also decreased because few people dare to leave the house at such a time. Suddenly, the door opens and a courier bag with the restaurant's logo flies to the floor. I can't work like this anymore, the courier who came in loudly complains. He holds a phone in his hands with news about another portal that has opened in the city. The courier shouts at Sun Tae at the top of his lungs, demanding that his salary be doubled. Either pay me more for risking my life or find another fool. The restaurant manager takes a break from dealing with the delivery man to let So-yoon go pick up their daughter, Ha-yoon. In fact, it is still too early to pick her up, but the girl obediently leaves anyway so as not to be late. Sun Tae stands there thoughtfully, nervously thinking about how the appearance of new portals is making it increasingly difficult for him to find workers. The courier is very upset. He only recently settled here and does not want to leave. The picture smoothly returns to Yomru, who is still wandering down the street near the restaurant. The thought flashes through his head that everything here is very different from his homeland, but there are still some similarities. The Emperor knows that many people have inner energy. Out of the corner of his eye, the man notices manager So-yoon walking down the road holding hands with Ha-yoon. The child wears a funny headband with bunny ears, and her energy makes her stand out from the crowd. This little girl has such pure energy, and Yomru wonders if this means she knows something. The wind rises, beautifully swirling the fallen leaves in the air. The girl smiles cheerfully, holding her mother's hand tightly and obediently following her. The gusts of wind suddenly increase, almost knocking them off their feet. The couple manages to stay on their feet, but the headband still flies off the girl's head and flies off into the distance. My headband! The child screams in fear and runs after him, trying to catch it. These lovely ears were given to her by her dad, and she can't afford to lose them. The little girl runs as fast as she can, not paying attention to everything around her, and finally catches up with her headband. She exhales tiredly, tightly clutching the thing that is dear to her in her hands. And only then does the girl look around in search of her mother. The child's eyes widen in fear when she hears a loud sound behind her. The headband flies out of her hands again. Expressions of shock and panic freeze on the faces of the people standing nearby. In front of the frightened mother's eyes, Emperor Yomru snatches the girl right from under the wheels of a truck rushing towards her. The man holds the child tightly to himself, trying to make sure she is not hurt. You almost got hit by a car. How are you feeling? Yomru asks worriedly. Frightened. So Yun runs towards them as fast as she can and immediately rushes towards the child. I don't know how I can repay you for saving my daughter. The woman bows. It is not worth it. And I am glad that the child was not harmed, the emperor replies. Unbeknownst to everyone, he had already given a little energy to the girl's nervous system so that she could more easily recover from what had happened. So Yoon offers to help the man get to the hospital, but he replies that everything is fine and he does not need help. Their dialogue is interrupted by the loud rumbling of Yeomru's stomach. Naturally, this does not go unnoticed. The emperor catches two surprised glances at himself, and only then does he begin to remember the last time he ate. It was just one dumpling before it got here. My dad is a cook, let's go eat together, says the girl and pulls Yeomru by the edge of her t-shirt. So Yoon joins her, reminding her that a man just saved her daughter and feeding him is the least she can do. The emperor raises his hand in protest, explaining that he saved the girl not for a reward, but simply because he had to do it. At that very moment, his stomach loudly makes itself known again, causing a cheerful laugh. The man has no choice but to agree, and he obediently follows the girls into the restaurant. What? Suntae's furious scream is heard throughout the restaurant. He looks his daughter over from head to toe with concern, making sure she is okay. The upset father hears from his wife that his daughter was saved by this strange man in rags and that he absolutely must be fed. Order whatever you want, exclaims the director. At this point, Ha-yoon intervenes with all his childish spontaneity, declaring that dirty people cannot sit at the table. The emperor looks down at his torn clothes in embarrassment. Suntae subtly suggests that he take a shower while he prepares food and Yeomru agrees. The hospitable family provides him with clean clothes of the appropriate size. Suntae has put on a little weight recently and these clothes are already too small for him. You'll need socks too, he mutters under his breath. And the emperor stands in bewilderment on the threshold of the bathroom. The man's gaze wanders around the room in confusion, looking for a well in which he could wash himself. Master, can I have a minute? He calls. Sorry, but I don't have enough water from this well. Yeomru points his finger at the toilet. In this way, he puts the father of the family into a state of shock. This is not a well at all, but a toilet. Sung-Ti screams. The man patiently explains to the emperor that this is a latrine and how to use it properly. After that, they return to the problem of taking a shower. The director points to the shower head, telling the man to turn the lever. Like this? Yeomru asks, turning the control lever all the way and the watering can is torn from his hands, actively pouring water all around. Suntae shouts to quickly catch the shower head, but the emperor is too shocked by the snake spitting water to react quickly enough. After a long time of torment, Yeomru takes a shower safely and thanks the owner. It's like you're seeing a bathroom for the first time in your life. Where are you from? He hears a completely natural question. The emperor takes a second to think about his answer. He decides that saying he has lost his memory would be the perfect solution to the problem. The man says that he has retained only a few fragments of memories and does not remember at all how he ended up here and what happened before he left that cave. Yeomru learns that this cave is one of the portals that opened in the city. Portals are doors to other dimensions that open and close for no apparent reason. Sometimes people are sucked right into the portal and are left to survive alone until the door opens again and they can leave this place. As a rule, such people lose their memory, and in particularly severe cases, even their socialization skills, which is why they are called isolationists. The emperor receives a promise to tell him more later, but now he needs to eat before the food gets cold. Yeomru picks up a plate of food and looks at it with suspicion. The color of this food brings back difficult memories for him. This color reminds him of the time when he went through initiation. For the emperor, this was one of the most difficult moments of his life. He remembers the place of initiation with a shudder. In order to survive, he had to drink dirty, stagnant water. What made this water even worse was that it contained numerous corpses and human blood. Uncle, why aren't you eating? A child's voice pulls him out of his unpleasant memories. These black noodles need to be mixed and rolled onto a stick. The girl diligently rolls up noodles and holds out the chopsticks to the man. The emperor brings food to his mouth with great care. It is all the more surprising for him to feel the divine taste of jjangmyeon. He had never tried anything like this anywhere. The family is embarrassed and promises to treat him to something better next time, but the man immediately demands another plate of this delicious dish. He is not at all offended that the girl laughs cheerfully at the fact that he got dirty again. Having had his fill, the man thanks her for such a hearty meal. Out of the corner of his eye, he notices a piece of paper with an announcement and asks what is written there. The restaurant owners explain that they are using this method to find a new courier who could deliver their food, since the previous employee quit due to the refusal to raise his salary yet again. This vacancy also comes with a room to stay in, which the emperor immediately sees as an opportunity. He needs to settle down somewhere to find out how this world works. "Can I work for you as a courier?" he decides to ask. The owners are surprised, but they would be very grateful. Hiring isolationists is fraught with legal difficulties, but they decide to take the risk. So Yoon recalls that any citizen can become a guarantor for an isolationist. She suggests that her husband think about it, and Ha Yoon supports her mother in this endeavor. Of course, there is some doubt about this decision. But after some deliberation, the family decides to vouch for Yeomru and hire him as their courier. Yeomru is grateful and promises to make every effort to complete this work. "My name is Kang So, and I am 35 years old. I introduce myself as the Emperor." It's surprising because he doesn't look his age at all, and yet he and Suntae are the same age. Men shake hands to signify their alliance. A flood of memories of the very girl who taught him to enjoy life flashes through the Emperor's head. It was she who came up with the name Kang So for Yeomru. After all, it is so beautiful and means big smile. Although not immediately, Yeomru nevertheless agreed to bear this name. Gradually evening comes, and then night. Crows are making anxious noises as they sit on the wires. From the height of their flight, the city seems very tiny. Bright flashes of light flicker in one of the restaurant's windows. If you look inside, you can see Kang So, who has been sitting peacefully on the floor for a long time. There is a power circling around him, and his body is surrounded by a halo of bluish glow. He feels how much pure energy there is in this unfamiliar world. In the everyday life of every person, there are many objects that are difficult for him to even imagine. This is truly a world of wonders. Kana is distracted from these thoughts by a knock on the door. Sun Tae stands frozen in the doorway, staring at him with obvious astonishment on his face. He didn't expect to see Khan sitting in complete darkness. The morning had arrived quite unnoticed, but it had not yet had time to get light. Kan tells the surprised owner that he did not find the lamp and therefore sat in the dark. Sun Tai realizes that he needs to teach Kang to turn on the light. "You press this button and it turns on," he carefully demonstrates. So Yoon joins the group and is surprised that Kang got up so early. There is a lot of work planned for today, and the owners are starting to prepare the establishment for opening. Kan sits down at the nearest table but is bored out of his mind. Unable to bear it any longer, he offers his help to the restaurant owners. Suntae feels extremely awkward about forcing Kang to work overtime when he could have gotten some sleep. However, the Emperor is clearly determined to repay good with good. The father of the family gives in and politely asks Kan to help him clean the premises. A man receives a device called a vacuum cleaner, designed to make cleaning easier for him. Sun Tai asks Kang to press the button on the vacuum cleaner so that it starts sucking up dust and dirt. Without looking back at Kan, who is standing behind him, the man continued to tell him how to use the device correctly. He says with a chuckle that 5-year-old Ha Yoon also sometimes helps her parents with cleaning. Looking back at the strange sounds, Suntae watches Kang, who is clearly losing the war with the vacuum cleaner, judging by his hair, which is firmly stuck in the brush of the device. "The vacuum cleaner may be old, but it sucks in a lot. Are you sure you can handle it?" The restaurant owner belatedly clarifies. With a lot of doubts, he still leaves Kan alone with the cleaning. The Emperor is confused because he needs to clean up, but this vacuum cleaner is so dangerous. A crazy thought pops into his head. Maybe he should use his magic. Kan clenches his fist tightly, concentrating on the feeling of his energy. He points his palm towards the ceiling, releasing the magic in a powerful gust of wind. Kan is clearly pleased with himself and his brilliant decision. Further cleaning is much more fun than it would be with a regular vacuum cleaner. The Emperor's power helps him collect all the dust and rubbish into one lump. With a slight movement of the hand, this lump of dirt is sent to the trash can. So the dust and debris are cleared away, and Kan's gaze falls on the bucket of clean water. Now you can start wet cleaning. Kan's magic gathers again into bright rays of light around him. The Emperor clenches his fist, bringing another element under his control. Streams of water glide smoothly throughout the restaurant, removing any remaining dirt and debris. A smile blossoms on Kan's face, pleased with the result of his work. A stunned Suntae appears from around the corner in the middle of cleaning. He looks around the room in surprise over Kan's shoulder. The Emperor cheerfully explains to him that he has decided to clean up the place in his own way. Thus, the restaurant director discovers Kan's abilities and suspects that the man is an awakened one of a high level of power. "Who are the awakened?" Kan asks, surprised. He learns that this is what they call people who have awakened superpowers. This process began 25 years ago, when the portals first began to open. Such abilities in this world are called aura, and people have telekinesis and various elemental magic. Depending on how well a person controls his aura, he is assigned a class. The higher the class, the higher the status and influence in society. Once upon a time, Sun Ti worked as a loader and saw many awakened ones, but none of them could control their aura as well as Kang. The man advises Khan not to waste time in his restaurant and to immediately go and get a job as a hunter in the guild in order to live a decent life. But the Emperor has no plans to become a hunter. After Sun Te said that the awakened ones here live like nobles, he was even less willing to become a guild hunter. In his life, he had already tasted wealth and honor, but he quickly realized that it was all perishable. At this point, Sun Te realizes that Kang has some memories. The Emperor admits that he actually used to live in a completely different world. One day, while meditating, he fell into oblivion and lost consciousness. He woke up in one of the portals but was able to get out of there. Khan explains how he traveled to the city in search of clean energy. And so it happened that he saved Ha-Yun from the terrible iron cart. He managed to save the girl from certain death literally in the last seconds. So that's it, Sun Te whispers in amazement. In fact, Khan did not want to deceive these people and he is very ashamed of his misdeed. The Emperor apologizes, looking down guiltily. His eyes widen when he feels a strange hand on his shoulder. Sun Te is so touched. He is very sorry that Kang had to go through such terrible things and find himself in a completely alien world for him. The man admits that if he were in Khan's place, he wouldn't have been able to immediately tell the whole truth about himself either. He suggests keeping Khan's origins a secret just in case, and telling everyone that he is an isolationist. At the same time, in the Department of Support for the Awakened, Group Number 1 is doing its work. There is a sign on the door that tells anyone who wants to know who is behind that door. If you enter this door, you can see a man asleep right at the computer. A girl in a formal suit with a tight bun on her head appears in the aisle and gives him a disapproving look. "Sun Jin Ho!" she screams. The man jumps up and down in fear. He spent the whole night at work again. That's why he was so tired. This girl's name is Kim Myung-hee, and she is from the inspection department of Group Number 2. Ho stretches wearily, explaining that he is staying late at work because he has no idea where to start. In response, he hands him a rather heavy folder with documents. She knows that Ho is still looking for that awakened Class 0. The man raises his hand in confusion and adjusts his slipping glasses. He looks at the document carefully, not believing his eyes. According to this paper, the chairman ordered the team to close this case. Doesn't he want us to find this awakened one? Ho wonders. He throws the folder of documents onto the table with all his might, and it falls with a loud bang. Ho doesn't understand how this can be done, but this is the chairman's order. But for the first time in history, the country has a chance to find its own awakened class of such a high level. Korea can finally take its rightful place among the alliance of allied countries. He doubts they'll be able to catch this awakened one. But Ho is confident that they will definitely cope with it. The girl decides to take on the chairmanship because she understands that Ho can no longer be stopped so easily. She has an appointment with her younger brother and invites the man to go to lunch with them. Ho refuses. Today, he plans to just buy something at the store and have lunch at his desk. Brother told he that they were going to a famous restaurant nearby, but she didn't know what exactly they were cooking there. Ho laughs that it's probably at least a Michelin-starred restaurant. After all, this is the department head's favorite restaurant, and he is a serious gourmet and taster. I wonder what this restaurant is called? Quite quickly, he reaches the restaurant and sees the intriguing name Spring Pavilion. The sign says that they serve Chinese cuisine here. The girl stops at the door, carefully looking around. Her brother, meanwhile, is chatting excitedly about how incredible the Jajangmyeon is here. This young man's name is Kim Myung-jin, and he is the chief paramedic of the first group. He is afraid that his beloved little sister does not like jajangmyeon. But his fears are in vain, because she will like any dish that her little brother treats her to. Although, of course, she herself would not be against taking her beloved brother to some elite restaurant. Young people rush to the doors, driven by a feeling of hunger. They go inside and he looks at the interior with interest. The food here must be really good since Department Head Beck loves this place so much. They are greeted by manager So-yoon, as usual, with her signature friendly smile on her face. She invites them to follow her and sit down at one of the tables. So-yoon places a menu on the table for them and leaves, asking to call her when the guys decide on their order. He still has doubts about whether this is a good restaurant, since the place is almost empty and all the tables are free. But Jin hands her the menu. He's sure she'll like it here. He has already made his choice, deciding to take the delicious jajangmyeon as usual, and his sister decides to follow his example. Jin waves his hand, calling the manager over to place an order. 1 sweet and sour pork and 2 servings of jajangmyeon, madam. He voices his order. The guy smiles cheerfully, winking at the manager. In doing so, he greatly surprises he. So-yoon blushes shyly and promises to give such a gallant young man a portion of dumplings on the house. The sister laughs cheerfully, noting that she hadn't noticed before that her little brother was so sociable. Jin, in turn, asks how his little sister is doing at work. A headache is the least of what's bothering he because of the rush job after that incident with the A-class portal. This incident attracted a lot of attention, and unless the department's workers find the only awakened Class 0 in many years, they will never recover from such a reputational blow. And the chairman took it and ordered them to close this case. The girl reminds her brother of her colleague named Ho from the support department and notes that the man tore the chairman's order in half and vowed to find this awakened one by any means necessary. Jin understands that his sister is going through a very difficult time right now. Yes, it would be easier to just close the case, but how could you miss such an opportunity? He suddenly stops speaking and stands still, tensely. She turns around sharply, looking around the room, and her eyes emit a reddish glow. Jean doesn't understand what's going on and why she's suddenly so tense. It was all about Kang, who was sitting at a table with little Ha Yun and her toys. He felt an incredibly powerful aura coming from him. She hadn't felt anything like that until now, but there was definitely a surge of aura now. She knows this for sure because her aura detection ability worked on Khan. But is this man really capable of hiding his aura that quickly? If he is not mistaken, then this person has an aura of at least A class, and at most he can be comparable in level to the very awakened 0 class that they are looking for. Please. 2 servings of jjajangmyeon, sweet and sour pork and dumplings on the house. The restaurant manager interrupts her thoughts. The brother and sister politely thank the girl, focusing their attention on the food she brought. He sighs and looks down at the plates. Indeed, the food looks very appetizing and smells incredible. He decides that she might have just imagined the flash of aura due to hunger. She tries the first serving of jjajangmyeon and lets out a disbelieving cry. Jin is surprised and upset. Did she not like the food? However, he immediately relaxes when he hears that his little sister is absolutely delighted and has never tasted such delicious jjajangmyeon. The man lets out a nervous laugh, surreptitiously wiping a bead of sweat from his temple that had appeared from the tension. He knew that she would definitely like it, but he was still a little worried. He is simply delighted. She thinks it's almost criminal to cook so deliciously. At this time, Khan tensely clutches the toy in his hand. He has already noticed that one of the guests of the establishment has an exceptional sense of auras. The energy of these brother and sister is different, but they can both be called masters. Apparently, these are some of the awakened ones, so he must be careful not to accidentally give away the level of his aura. He must learn as much as possible about these awakened ones. There are complications in this world, and it still doesn't clean up as cleanly as it would like. But this can be fixed, because he is still just getting used to life in this civilization. The kind couple who own this establishment have already taught him a lot. A flurry of memories of his first encounter with the comforts of this world flash through the Emperor's mind. In this world, there is no well as usual for him, and the shower head is too similar to a frightening snake. Over time, Khan will learn everything because he is in no hurry, and he will be able to find out more information about the local awakened. The man's sensitive hearing picks up some vague sound from the street. This sound is very similar to the growl of some huge beast. Khan rushes headlong to the exit of the restaurant to find out what is going on. But there he meets only Sun-tae, who does not look scared at all. The restaurant director smiles and says that he just wanted to show him something. Khan tensely asks where this terrible sound came from. Next to Sun-tae, there is an incomprehensible iron device that produces that very same growl. The director explains that this is a device for fast driving, and it is called a motorcycle. Kanu will need it to keep up with his orders, but it will take time to learn how to drive it. Sun-tae chuckles and throws a strange, round-shaped thing right into Kang's hands. It's called a helmet, and it's required to ride a motorcycle like this. A motorcycle is very dangerous, so you can't do without protective equipment. Khan tries on a helmet that is very similar to the very helmets worn by the great warriors of his world. Sun-tae climbs onto the motorcycle and invites Kang to sit behind him. The Emperor notes that it is somewhat similar to riding a horse. The director starts the motorcycle, warning Khan not to be scared. After all, at this point, the similarity with riding a horse ends because the motorcycle moves many times faster, and the men smoothly move off, immediately picking up high speed. Sun-tae watches Kang's reaction closely, worried that he might get sick from the speed he's not used to. Khan isn't sure he wants to deliver orders in this particular iron monster. Sun-tae, in turn, notes that if Kang is afraid to use this means of transportation, then he will not be able to work for them as a courier. After all, the main goal is fast food delivery. But the Emperor finds this method rather slow and noisy. He could move much faster using his body lightning technique. The men park near one of the popular residential complexes, where a fairly large portion of their clients live. This complex is called Azure, and the sector number is indicated on the side of each house. Kan listens carefully to the new stream of information and thinks, "Why, if this city is teeming with monsters, don't people leave?" Suntai replies that it is certainly dangerous here, but not to the point where people are willing to leave and abandon their homes. 25 years ago, the first monsters appeared in this world, and then it really was simply impossible to continue living in these places. But soon people realized that with the help of magic stones, protective barriers can be created around the cities, so now the city is relatively safe. What are these magic stones? It's something like the nuggets that people find in the bodies of killed monsters. They contain so much energy that they fully replace the energy sources of the past. And thanks to them, such a rapid leap is observed in the development of science. But this does not mean that the city streets are completely safe, so people should be careful. Suntai interrupts his story with the click of a drink can being opened. The man hands the tin can to Kanu, offering him a taste. Kan involuntarily moves away, not trusting the object that made such a strange sound. But Suntae is absolutely calm and confident that Kang will definitely like it, and he has never tried anything like this in his life. The Emperor is afraid to drink something unknown, but still decides to do so, because he was also afraid to eat jajangmyeon at first. So what will it taste like? A sensation like lightning struck Kan when he took his first sip. It was like the epiphany that comes over a person after a whole day of long and hard work. The spicy sweetness of this drink is refreshing and spills out inside. It couldn't even compare to the magical panacea that the elders of the Northern Ice Palace had once given him. Suntai adds that this magical drink even helps with indigestion, and Kang is completely delighted. Refreshed, they decide to head back towards the restaurant. However, Kan cautiously asks whether it is really necessary to move around on this particular device. Maybe we can do without it? The Emperor believes that he can easily handle delivering orders using his own legs. Suntae is outraged because it is so important to deliver the food on time, before the noodles have time to swell and the dish has lost its marketable appearance. In addition, restaurant customers get very annoyed when they have to wait too long for delivery. But Kan is confident that he can get there much faster on foot than on a motorcycle. Suntai is shocked, but a thought creeps into his head that it is not so impossible. After all, Kan is a high-class awakened being and his aura is very powerful. The men then decide to test whether Kan can really cope so quickly. Suntai checks to see if Kang remembers the way to the restaurant and starts the motorcycle. They will check which of the two of them can return to the restaurant faster, Kang on foot or Suntae on a motorcycle. If Kan could really outrun the director on a motorcycle, he would approve the courier's delivery without any hesitation. With these words, Suntae takes off. Kang So didn't get his nickname, Flame Emperor, for nothing. He possessed an incredible gift of the element of fire, which was called the invisible body technique. As the name suggests, when using this skill, he becomes completely invisible. Using this ability helps him get close to the enemy completely undetected and kill. After Kan attained enlightenment, he continued to develop this technique even more diligently, and he called its improved version the invisible body technique of emptiness. Kan soars into the air, rushing past the unsuspecting people with unprecedented speed. This ability not only makes him completely invisible, but also prevents his presence from being detected in any other way. In addition, it increases speed and agility to incredible levels. This new technique, coupled with his supreme martial arts skills, earned him the title of God of Martial Arts, which is even more majestic than God of Death. At this time, Suntae finally reaches the restaurant doors. He drove with all his might, using the maximum possible speed of the motorcycle. He wonders where Kang So is now. Suntae sees this as a competition and is very interested to know who wins. He walks into a restaurant and realizes his defeat. After all, Kan is already waiting for him there. Daddy's late. Ha-Yun laughs happily, sitting comfortably on the Emperor's shoulders. Suntae can't understand how the man was able to get to the restaurant so quickly, since Kang has been here for at least 10 minutes according to So-Yoon. But as promised, Suntae allows Kang to make deliveries without using transport. The director also recalls the existence of a test for superpowers. In his opinion, Kang simply has to pass it, because everyone is so interested in what class he will be assigned. The Emperor doubts, but still gives his consent to take the test, and they move towards the department for working with the awakened. There are quite a lot of people in the building of this organization, mostly employees of different departments. "We've finally arrived!" Sun T exclaimed. He is very glad that he was able to convince Kan to take this superpower test. As an undocumented citizen who came from the portal, Kang So had to go through many bureaucratic procedures. He has no documents or registration, and is not entirely sure how to fill out these forms correctly. Suntai is pretty tired of this pointless paperwork, but he simply has to finish the job, because Kang is his daughter's savior. The Emperor wonders how this test is passed. Suntai explains that during the test, Kang will need to place his hands on two balls, slightly larger than a fist, with an electric current running between them. And the stronger the electric shock he receives, the lower his level will be. If you can handle electric current well, it means you are of a high level. In other words, awakened ones of a high level have a high energy potential. In this world, you are lucky if you are assigned a high class. Life will immediately change for the better, and some gifted people will even be valued as a national treasure. High class in any case ensures a comfortable existence. Someone else in Khan's place now would undoubtedly be very happy. But he knows better than anyone that wealth and fame are dust and ashes. A person has many passions and desires. They are always insatiable, and no matter how hard he tries, a whole life will not be enough to satisfy them. Once upon a time, Khan got tired of the world of passions and retired to live in a remote mountain village. He can't allow his peace to be disturbed again. From now on, he will have to hide his true level of strength very carefully. Suntae wishes Kang good luck as he prepares to take the test. However, there is a problem. In which office does the test take place? Kang goes up to the second floor as the director told him. He is puzzled by the self-propelled box and the self-opening doors. Moreover, it turns out that these doors also talk. Finally, the Emperor finds the right office. He is met by Park Soo-yoon, the head of the second department, who will take the man's test. Soo-yoon notes that they haven't tested isolationists for a long time. The peak of the isolationists' growth was 10 years ago. But gradually, the Korean government regained control over most of the territory and these incidents began to decline. The North, of course, had no chance before, and now even less so. Kang doesn't understand what kind of North Soo-yoon is talking about, but decides to forget about it for now. They go to the place where the testing itself will take place. According to the assigned class, Kang will be sent for training after passing the test. Inside, they are met by a pretty girl in a white coat who will apparently conduct the testing itself. She suggests that Kanu place his hands on the two spheres and try not to move until the test is complete. Kan agrees, and they begin the test. The man puts his hands on the spheres, and indeed, he does not feel any electric shock because his body successfully resists. As Suntae said, the stronger the stability, the higher the level will be registered. Based on this, Kan makes a decision. He must contain his inner energy. The testing ends quickly enough, and Kanu is allowed to remove his hands from the spheres. Everyone is waiting with bated breath for the result. The girl announces the results of the testing. Kanu is assigned Class F. F class means that the awakened one has only slightly more abilities than ordinary people, who are scientifically classified as G class. The department staff are upset. They think that Khan is disappointed with this test result because he is an isolationist and probably hoped to get a higher class. But in fact, Khan believes that he made a mistake because he tried to reduce the resistance to the level of the G class. If only he had guessed to reduce the resistance to 0 right away. However, the department's employees rush to console the man, asking him not to be upset because they believe that class does not determine his value as a person. In the Korean Awakened Association, the internal security organ is the Awakened Support Department, which handles matters of high importance and secrecy. The operational groups that are part of this department are divided by numbers, and the most highly classified cases are handled by the first group, and so on in descending order. The head of Group 2 is in charge of training isolationists, a very responsible position. Because among the isolationists, there are often awakened upper classes. So even if it interferes with their main job, they are obliged to organize the training of isolationists. "Are you working overtime again, Park Soo-yoon?" asks Baek Yoon-ho, Team 1's leader. Soo-yoon is surprised that such a busy man had time to come see him. The fact is that Yoon-ho learned that an order had been signed to organize the training of an isolationist, so he wonders how the testing went. Soo-yoon replies with disappointment that although the management has not said anything about this, it is obvious to everyone that they are not satisfied with the results obtained. He opens Khan's card, revealing his assigned F class. Unfortunately, this guy will have problems due to the isolationism he experienced. People like him would be better off in a higher power class. Here, Soo-yoon remembers that at the very beginning of the conversation, the boss suggested that they go to dinner together. He's thinking about going to a store and grabbing a quick bite. These words are immediately followed by Eun-ho's furious reaction. He didn't come here at this time of day to eat cold kimbap from the supermarket. Don't underestimate the importance of gourmet food. Only fresh jjajangmyeon and gabaju. Meanwhile, it was already early morning, and Emperor Kangso was just opening his sleepy eyes. His friends in the spring pavilion had already woken up and started working. He looks at the clock, which shows it is almost 6 o'clock in the morning. Reluctantly, The man throws off the blanket and gets up. Half asleep, he can't immediately get his feet into his slippers. It's very strange and unusual, but he didn't get enough sleep. Perhaps because yesterday was a difficult day, full of events and new knowledge. However, there were also some pleasant moments yesterday. After a day of training at the department, Kang tried a role for the first time in his life, and after jjajangmyeon, it was the only dish that surprised him so much. Previously, it seemed to him that he had long ago tried all possible food in his past life. The Emperor must do something about this sudden drowsiness and fatigue, so he decides to do the breathing practice, qi. Unfortunately, he can't do it right here, because everyone in this building will quickly realize that he's not an F-class at all. It was enough that he was almost spotted by that woman who came to eat jjajangmyeon. The association building was full of awakened people of various classes, and among them, there might even be those who had a much more developed sense than that woman, so he should be more careful. Kana is surprised that they even bother with his training, despite his low power class. However, the training itself was much more meaningful and useful than he expected. Last night in the auditorium, Khan listened to a rather informative lecture on the history of portals. A significant moment in history is considered to be the opening of an S-class portal, from which entire hordes of monsters began to emerge, resulting in the suffering of a huge number of civilians and awakened. Humanity managed to defeat the monsters, but the area where this war took place became uninhabitable and became known as the Land of Death, and the incident was called the Great Clash. When Khan emerged from the portal, he found himself in the Lands of Death, and only then was he able to find his way to the city. If even 3 or even 2 portals of this level were to open in the city, the association would not be able to cope with it, and it would be a real disaster for this world. During his training, he learned that society here was like a tower of ill-fitting parts, and if he understands correctly, then even the slightest shock will bring down this tower. And in this situation he appears, a real master of martial arts of a very high level. A quiet and unnoticed life will become almost impossible for him under such circumstances. Even if it's selfish, Khan wants to live the rest of his life in peace at all costs, so he can't let anyone know about his real class. The Emperor feels that a person with very pure and powerful energy is heading here. This man is Sao Yun, and he is knocking politely on the door. Mr. Kang. So, are you awake? He asks. After receiving a positive answer, Su-un opens the door and walks inside the room. Kan looks closely at the person who entered, noticing all the details. You can clearly see from Su-yun how tired and exhausted he is. Kan gets out of bed with determination, heading towards the coffee machine standing nearby. He brews coffee, just like Su-yun taught him yesterday during his lecture on the structure of this world. Everything goes exactly according to the instructions, and he offers the man to try the drink. Su-yun is pleasantly surprised, because the awakened one only yesterday learned how to brew coffee and practices this process the very next day. Kan replies that his success is entirely due to the teaching he received. Su-yun gratefully accepts the glass of coffee from the man's hands and takes her first scalding sip. This coffee turns out to be delicious, as if from the magical ingredients of the portal. After the first sip, you get the feeling as if you had a good night's sleep and just woke up. Kang is pleased with the result. He specifically charged this coffee with his energy as a token of gratitude, because Su-yun puts her heart and soul into his training. He asks the boss what they will be learning today during training. According to the plan for today, the first lesson is on the topic of canteen. Su-yun asks the chefs to prepare a special menu today. They go into the dining room, which is quite busy this morning, and the place reminds the emperor of a field kitchen from the military campaigns of his past world. Su-in laughs that the work is indeed a bit like war, but unlike on the field, the portions in the canteen are much larger. He invites the awakened one to put on his tray as much food as he wants. Kan worries that there won't be enough food for the rest of the people, but his boss reassures him that the cafeteria staff will prepare more if some dishes run out. The emperor finds this incredible and is glad that they live in an age of abundance after all these wars. But the man is much more surprised by the speed of logistics in this incomprehensible world. In addition, the amazing technologies of cooking, preserving, and long-term storage of food are also fascinating. This isolationist, in Su-yun's opinion, thinks incredibly strategically, despite the fact that yesterday was only the first day of his training. This huge range of products is available thanks to scientists, and for ordinary workers the canteen is a place of rest and recovery. However, he himself rarely visits the canteen, usually making do with a quick meal, despite the fact that a meal is always the most pleasant part of the day. The man asks if the awakened one liked the food and remains satisfied with his positive answer. At this point, he suggests ending today's training, believing that this is enough for today. However, Can categorically disagreed with him. He was sure that there would be other classes today. And indeed, today's schedule also includes a visit to the gym. For the F class, this excursion is optional, so the boss planned to skip it today. But then he realized that in that case, his own conscience would eat at him because he was deceiving a naive isolationist and cutting his lessons short. Soo-yoon decides to make time to go to the gym today. He says that any person who has an awakened certificate has every right to practice here. Regardless of the assigned class, this place is available to everyone. The only ones who won't be allowed in here are self-proclaimed criminals. If Kang wants to study here, it will be very good for him, Soo-yoon believes. However, the man refuses such a generous offer, preferring to train in his own way. Soo-yoon insists, because it is completely free, and he can teach the awakened one how to use each of the available training devices. Can thanks him for his diligence, but still doesn't agree. He doesn't think he'll need this training for anything. The head of the department, in turn, is interested in what plans the awakened one has for the near future. Emperor Kang smiles meaningfully before answering. After class, the man returns to the restaurant to see his new friends. He is glad that they met him halfway and allowed him to undergo this training, letting him go from work for a while. He shows them his brand new F-class hunter license. So Yoon is a little surprised because she remembers that Kang planned to get a G-class like a normal person. Kan admits that he was unable to contain his inner strength in time and received a result that was a class higher than he originally wanted. But this is not bad at all because his abilities are impossible not to notice, and an ordinary person cannot have them, and this will attract unnecessary attention. Fortunately, no one noticed anything unusual about him during his training. He has incredible intelligence and a high learning ability, that's all. To be more precise, he is very smart, and if you explain some concept to him, he immediately understands how to correctly apply it in different areas. The department staff concluded that he was a quick learner and excellent at applying his acquired knowledge in practice. The only thing that doesn't add up a little is that the first group of the law enforcement department noted something very interesting. The movements and sense of balance of this awakened one are not at all characteristic of his class. There were even some doubts as to whether the device had been damaged during testing. But after testing, the device underwent another thorough check and everything turned out to be in perfect order, so everyone is sure that the strength class was assigned to this person absolutely fairly. Every person can develop his abilities to the next level, but he will never grow to the middle, much less the upper class. Frankly, much more was expected from the first isolationist in a long time, so there is a certain amount of disappointment, especially if you pay attention to the fact that Kang So said that his plans for the future include helping his friend, and he needs help in nothing other than his own restaurant business. At this time, an unsuspecting Khan holds in his hands a mobile phone thoughtfully given to him by the restaurant director. With this device, he will be able to contact Director Suntae at any time. The man bought this interesting gadget using the isolationist allowance he received. Kan had not noticed before, but now he realized that most men in this civilization wear short hair and he does not want to stand out, so the man is thinking about cutting his long hair. So Yoon is simply delighted she can talk about this topic for hours. So her husband carefully leaves the room, citing the fact that he still needs to chop ingredients for tomorrow's work. He leaves, whistling cheerfully and mentally wishing Kanu luck, because if his wife starts talking about fashion, there's no stopping her. A happy. So Yoon offers to help the emperor choose a new haircut. She takes Kan to the best beauty salon and remains patiently waiting for him outside with her husband. When Kan comes out, the look of shock freezes on their faces. Suntae feels a little awkward because he feels like the whole street is looking at his new employee. And indeed, this is true. All the people passing by are wondering who this handsome man is and whether he is an actor with such and such a model appearance. On the way home, a couple of girls approach him and ask him to give them an autograph and take at least one photo together. However, to their disappointment, Suntae intervenes, apologizing and preventing them from getting what they want. He says that girls don't need to ask this young man for an autograph, because he is not a movie star at all, but just an ordinary guy. Suntae thought from the very beginning that everyone around him was crazy, and he was right. Kan doesn't understand why he can't give an autograph to these girls, and the director has to explain to him that the thing is that Kan is so handsome that all the girls around him mistook him for a celebrity, and if they managed to take a photo, they would immediately post it on the internet. And if people start sharing his photos on the internet, then he will immediately be recognized on the streets and this will bring nothing but problems. But this is not at all the life that Kang So wanted for himself. Therefore, he will have to be careful and try not to stand out in the crowd. The next day, work in the restaurant is in full swing. Never before had this small establishment been so filled with such a huge number of people. Kan does his job with all his might and helps the restaurant owners serve food to customers. Walking past the tables, he catches the admiring glances of all the girls gathered in this establishment. Have you decided on your order? A man approaches one of the tables. The girls at this table blush shyly, giggling and covering their faces with their hands, but finally place their order. 2 jjajangmyeon and 1 seafood udon. Kang shouts to the director, who takes the order. Right there, from all sides you can hear the shouts of girls sitting at the other tables, all of them ready to place their order. One gets the feeling that each of them is trying to capture the attention of the handsome worker, at least for a second. The cuisine here is simply superb. One of the many visitors is surprised. I would come here every day to eat this jjajangmyeon all the time. The girls at the next table laugh. Manager. So Yoon is usually polite and friendly to everyone. However, there are no more vacancies, and she has to refuse service to the girls who keep arriving. They are fully booked, but the customers do not give up and tell them that they are ready to wait just to eat at this establishment. There is already a whole crowd of girls gathered outside the restaurant doors, ready to wait as long as it takes. Seo Yoon clearly disappoints them when she goes outside and loudly announces that they are almost out of food and will not be able to serve anyone else today. The clients are upset to the point of tears. Will they really not be able to enter this wonderful establishment today? Suddenly, another girl makes her way through the crowd of visitors, actively pushing everyone aside. Seo Yoon watches in shock along with the assembled customers. Hello, my name is Kim Ji Yoon and I'm here for an interview. The girl who came up to me waves her hand in greeting. She smiles in a friendly manner and attracts everyone's attention with her unusual hair color. So Yoon is very happy to see this girl so soon, and they get to know each other better. Ji Yoon says that she is 23 years old and has just graduated from college and is looking for a job in her field. So Yoon complains that the Spring Pavilion has been very short of workers lately, so they decided to hire another part-time employee. Ji Yoon laughs that this pavilion has become very famous in the entire area thanks to the appearance of such a handsome worker. All the female population of the area tries to get here just to see him. Kan notices that this girl has a very strong aura. He already understood that in this civilization, people with high abilities live well and do not need anything. They should be highly valued and have a different quality of life than ordinary people. Seo Yoon asks Ji Yoon to help her with taking and delivering orders, as well as packing portions of pickled radishes. Another task has been prepared for Kan. It's time for him to go and deliver the finished orders according to the provided list. He packs the food into a special courier bag and hurries to start his work. Ji Yoon waves goodbye to him in a friendly manner. At this time, she herself will help Sun Tae with packing other portions of food. She is surprised that there are so many visitors here because when she found out information about this place, it was said that there are usually quite few customers here. It doesn't take long before Kan delivers all the orders and returns back. Have you delivered everything yet? The girl cries out in surprise. Kan justifies his high speed by saying that all the orders were located close to here. Ji-yoon nods to him at the new batches of jjajangmyeon and jampon that are already packaged and ready for delivery. Kan takes the bag with orders by the handle and goes off to continue working. The girl blushes slightly and asks him to be careful. The weather outside the restaurant windows is getting worse. It's becoming cloudy and rainy. It's no wonder the restaurant gets so many lunch orders in this weather. Kan returns after delivering all the orders and is greeted by the restaurant owners along with a new employee. They are already making preparations, preparing for the evening loading. So Yoon looks at the time and realizes that it is time to pick up Ha-yoon from kindergarten. They tell the new employee that Ha-yoon is their beloved 5-year-old daughter. Now the restaurant is facing an evening rush of customers, and they barely have time to prepare the food. So the embarrassed parents ask Kan to pick up the girl from kindergarten this time. Ji-eun, a little embarrassed, admits that she would also like to meet the child. Maybe she will also be allowed to go with Kan to pick up the baby from kindergarten? The parents look at each other and still decide to send both employees. They can handle the preparations themselves, so Kang and Ji-yoon leave together. It's still raining outside, so they should definitely take umbrellas with them. The girl is the first to take the initiative and tries to get to know Kan a little better. The man states his age and the girl is amazed because he does not look 35 at all. Kan replies that for some reason a lot of people tell him this. He apologizes for the immodest question, but he is still interested in why a girl with such abilities decided to get a job in a very ordinary spring pavilion. Ji-yoon pretends that she doesn't understand what abilities are being discussed and that she is an ordinary person without any powers. She almost admits that she doesn't have any evil intentions and that she just wanted to look at him, but she stops herself in time. She turns Kan's attention to the already open door of the kindergarten, where someone is standing. Indeed, Ha-yoon is already waiting for them along with her teacher. At the teacher's request, the girl greets him politely. "Did you have a good time?" Kan asks. Ha-yoon responds positively and happily, introduces Uncle Kang to her teacher. The teacher, in turn, admits that she has heard a lot about what a wonderful Uncle Ha-yoon has. At this time, Kan lowers the umbrella and the girl can now see his face. Her expression at this moment makes the Emperor ask if she's okay. The teacher turns her gaze to Ji-yoon. Assuming that she is the wife of this handsome young man, suddenly, recognition flashes across her face and she addresses Ji-yoon by name. The new worker doesn't give her a chance to finish, rushing forward and covering her mouth with her hand. The teacher quietly asks what she is doing here and how is her work in the guild. Ji-yoon replies that it is a secret and she is here on a mission, and Ha-yoon's parents think that she is an ordinary person. At this time, Kan helps the girl take the umbrella, and they head towards the exit. The man says goodbye to the teacher and they go home. While the adults are calmly walking home, Ha-yoon skips ahead of them, not paying attention to their conversations. Kang asks Ji-yoon if that kindergarten teacher is her friend. The girl at first tries to pretend that she doesn't understand what he's talking about, but quickly realizes that it's pointless and that Kan already understands everything. So she simply says that she and this teacher are more acquaintances than friends and do not see each other very often. "Walking under an umbrella in the rain is very nice, isn't it, Ha-yoon?" the girl asks. The little girl absolutely agrees with her, and she also really likes her beautiful umbrella with ducks. Kan is worried that it is difficult for the girl to carry this umbrella on her own and offers his help. But Ha-yoon refuses because it's not hard for her at all. They agree that if things suddenly become too hard for the girl, she will definitely tell Uncle Kan about it. Chatting merrily, the company passes by some dark alley. However, Ha-yoon suddenly stops and listens. She thinks there is definitely someone there. The girl tells Kanu about this and runs as fast as she can into the gateway. There she finds a small, wet, fluffy lump that squeaks pitifully. Kan bends down to pick up the creature. He thought it was a mouse, but Ji-yoon says that's not quite true. This rodent is called the dungeon rat. "So, it's a magical animal?" Kan asks. The girl explains that this rat lives in the dungeons, but is not a magical creature because, unlike them, it does not feel hostility towards humans and does not try to harm them, and also has a heightened sense of its natural enemies, which are magical beasts and monsters. Due to its skills and appearance, this animal has become a favorite among hunters, and many have domesticated them. Most likely, this rat went with its owner into the portal, and there's something bad happened to them. Ha-yoon says with tears in her eyes that she doesn't want this cute animal to die, and they have to do something and help her. Kan thinks it won't be easy to save her, but the girl replies that since she is still breathing, they should not abandon her. These words trigger another flood of memories of Kan's past life. "How blind I was," he regrets. After much doubt, he decides that any life is certainly valuable. Otherwise, how will he be different now from his past self, from the cold-blooded killer he was? The man leans towards the girl, looking into her eyes. He decided that they would take this rat with them. The whole company hurries to the restaurant to try to save the unfortunate animal. There is little hope, because the rat is in very serious condition and can barely breathe. Her breathing and heartbeat are weak, as if she is dying. Kan decides to share his energy with the rat to breathe some life into it. He doesn't notice at all that his actions are clearly visible to people from the outside. Ji-yoon watches the rat's treatment process in amazement, at a loss for words. Altogether, they hurry faster to the restaurant. So-yoon immediately rushes to her daughter's side as soon as she sees tears in her eyes. Only then does she notice a strange furry creature in Kan's hands. Suntae is no less surprised. He immediately understands that the man is holding a dungeon rat in his hands. This rat looks like it was recently attacked in a portal. Ha-yoon is confident that they will be able to save the animal and she will take it for herself. Mom upsets her by saying that the rat must have a rightful owner since they found it on the street and not in a dungeon. Kan decides that the animal needs to be cured first before anything can be done. They were about to go look for the nearest veterinary clinic, but then the door opened. Soo-yoon and Yoon-ho enter the restaurant. They came to have a snack, but immediately notice the animal in Kan's arms. The men realize that she is seriously injured, and they decide to see what can be done about it. Soo-yoon picks up the animal to help. He immediately understands that the rat has already been given first aid, and quite professionally. The animal is in much better condition than it seemed at first glance. All he has to do is add a little more of his energy. Kan watches him closely because from the very beginning he realized that this man was endowed with extraordinary power. However, Kan had no idea that this man had such a huge mystical power concentrated in his hands, which he easily transformed into a healing gift. Ha-yoon watches the entire treatment process with delight. The girl is sure that this man just performed a real miracle with the animal. After finishing, Su-eun passes the faintly squeaking dungeon rat straight into Ha-yoon's hands. This little creature is very lucky to be in such kind and caring hands. Kan now understands what the powers of the awakened of this world are, and it truly seems incredible to him. Sun-tae still looks a little shocked by what happened, while Ha-yoon has already managed to place the rat in a large, comfortable box. Suddenly, the magical creature began to move. Apparently, she felt much better. Then the girl places a full bowl of milk in front of the exhausted animal. Sun-tae tells his daughter that since the rat is already eating, it's time for the girl to do the same. At this time, the animal suddenly breaks away from the food and freezes in place. After a second of thought, the rat begins to squeak incredibly loudly. Kan is sure that she wants to tell them all something. Meanwhile, the rat quickly heads towards the exit of the restaurant. The Emperor understands that the animal is asking him to follow. Apparently, she wants to show him something very important. Something very bad must have happened if such a smart animal didn't have an owner nearby. Sun-tae asks Kang to go anyway and see where the dungeon rat leads him. After all, it is he who can move through space faster than anyone else. Besides, you can't just ignore the rat, because then Ha-yoon will definitely get upset. The curious girl can't wait to find out what happened to this cute creature. For the sake of the child's peace of mind, Kan agrees. He himself is alarmed by the strange energy he sees around the rat. He has seen this before, but he doesn't yet understand what this energy is. Kan leans towards the animal to say he agrees. The whole family wishes the man good luck. They leave the restaurant and the rat squeaks loudly to urge Kan on, pointing him in the direction. The Emperor approaches the brightly shining portal at high speed. He stops, looking around the space. This portal is very similar to the one from which he himself came into this world, and Kang So takes a step forward. At this time, an extremely depressing action unfolds inside the portal. A small group of hunters are surrounded by monsters that are getting closer and closer. Am I really going to die here? One of the guys thinks. There are too many monsters and only 4 hunters left. The blonde girl holds the protective barrier with the last of her strength, but even that will soon run out. The hunters are sure that this is the end. They promise each other that in the next world they will definitely throw an amazing party. Only an S-rank hunter can save them, but that's just a pipe dream. If only I were a higher class, flashes through the girl's mind. And then the sounds of battle are interrupted by a loud, desperate squeak. The hunters are shocked, because they always recognize this squeak. Following the squeak, something happens in the cave. Suddenly, a ball of bright light appears in the darkness. Now the darkness has receded and the hunters can look around. All the monsters are killed, but no one understands how this is possible. The girl remembers that they had just heard the squeak of Karanga, their pet dungeon rat. At this time, Kan bursts into the portal like a bright arrow. He sees a crowd of monsters starting to advance straight towards him. The Emperor clenches his fist, calling upon his power. It only takes a few seconds to hit nearby skeletons. Kan looks around for the next monsters. Last time he didn't destroy all the monsters in the portal, and only the smallest ones remained alive, so the portal didn't close. This time he is absolutely confident that he will see things through to the end. The Emperor hears footsteps behind him. He turns around sharply, destroying the monster that had gotten too close. Their magic core is in the head, which means you need to hit it there. More and more monsters are getting closer. Someone was recently killed here, but a sword was left behind, and Kan decides to borrow it. He will avenge the owner of this sword. The kingdom of heaven to you, friend, thinks Kan. In the next moments, the darkness of the cave is only thinned by flashes of light from the swings of the sword. It doesn't take long before every single monster is destroyed. Now the Emperor sees before him the source of that very strange demonic energy. It definitely comes from this door. The man boldly walks inside, holding the sword of the defeated warrior in his hands. How dare you disturb my peace? He hears the scream of a monster who appeared behind the door. This monster will not let anyone get away with such disdain. Those who disturb his peace can only die. Kan is a little surprised because in front of him stands a knight holding his own head in his hand. Quite a unique look, the man laughs. The monster is furious and intends to take revenge for such a mockery of itself. It flies up to the ceiling of the cave, intending to strike. The monster is confident that just one will be enough. Maybe your head is your weak spot? Kan grins. The monster becomes even more enraged. Emperor Kang prepares to repel the attack. You impudent worm! The monster screams before diving down. Without further ado, Emperor Kang attacks. Just one masterful blow of the sword and a glowing stone falls to the ground with a loud thud. The man looks in bewilderment at the strange object that rolled right up to his feet. Apparently, this is the source of that very demonic energy. I guess these are what they call magic stones in this world. His thoughts are interrupted by a loud squeak. The dungeon rat quickly crawls out of his breast pocket and onto his shoulder. The Emperor has eliminated everything that posed a threat here, and the portal will soon close. This means that the rat needs to run faster to its owner. The animal rushes with all its might to where its friend was last found. Kang is left alone, thinking that Ha-Yoon will probably be upset about losing her pet. This dungeon is a bit too weird. It was classified as a C class, which makes it all the more surprising that a B-class monster was here. The hunters were sure that nothing could save them except the awakened S-class. But all hunters of this class radiate incredible energy. This means that if one of these appeared in the dungeon, everyone would immediately sense it. It was quite possible that this was the awakened Class 0 that everyone was talking about. The team's thoughts are interrupted by a loud squeak right under their feet. Kurongi survived and is now actively looking for someone. The hunters realize that the rat is looking for Seok-hoon, but unfortunately, he could not come out of this battle alive, and it became his last. Kurongi runs up to his friend's body and looks at it incredulously. She squeals desperately, begging him to wake up, but the man doesn't react in any way. The team watches helplessly. Kurongi is very upset and doesn't know what to do next. The hunters understand from the sounds that the portal is empty. It will close soon, so you need to have time to collect as many magic stones as possible. After some time, the Special Forces group emerges from the portal. Kurongi watches as they are surrounded by journalists hungry for news and sensationalism. They persistently demand answers to their questions, interfering with the placement of the dead hunter's body on a stretcher. The dungeon rat leaves from there with a sad squeak. It starts to rain outside, making the situation even more sad and the fur wet. Ha-Yoon, meanwhile, is sad, sitting next to an empty box in which an exhausted rat had recently been lying. Of course, the girl understands that the animal has already returned to its owner and it will be better that way. But she is still very sad because she will not see him again. Emperor Kang returns and stands at the door in bewilderment. He doesn't understand why the girl is so sad, as if someone had died, and from his breast pocket peeks out the wet face of a dungeon rat. Ha-Yoon screams happily and jumps up in place. She takes Kurongi from Khan's hands and hugs her with all her might. At this time, the man tells Sun-tae that the owner took Kurongi on a mission, and they both suffered during the battle in the dungeon. Unfortunately, too much time had passed since the death of Kurongi's master, and the Emperor could not help him in any way. Sun-tae is shocked that Kang went into the dungeon alone. The portal should be cleared soon, he believes. Kang replies that he has already cleared it out himself, and Sun-tae cries out in surprise. I wonder what class Kang So really is. Maybe Class A or Class S like the legendary hunter Li Xin? Except for the Great Hunter, no one could enter the portal and clear it alone. If Kang So is so good at hiding his aura, he must be the Class 0 awakened that everyone is talking about. At this time, Ha-Yoon shows the whole family how beautifully she dressed Kurongi, and Sun-tae decides that even if Kang is a level 0 awakened, he is still his friend. The man makes a firm decision to think only about the good. Ha-Yoon, Sun-tae, and Kang so decide to keep the dungeon rat for themselves, for which, of course, they get a scolding from a disgruntled So-yoon. The next morning, Khan wakes up quite early. Today is his first day off and he doesn't know what to do. His memories flash with images of a girl from his past scolding him for the fact that all he does is work and doesn't know how to relax. Just do what you want, it's so stupid to work when you should be resting, she says. This girl would tell him the same thing now. Khan decides to look at his trophy from the dungeon yesterday. This stone contains an invisible and extremely alien energy. The energy of this civilization is similar to the dark magic used by the followers of the Sky Demon cult in his home world. They obtained this energy through human sacrifices. Emperor Kang cannot keep this dangerous item, so he decides to seal its energy for now. Having done this, the man gets out of bed and goes downstairs to the kitchen. He is surprised that Sun-tae is busy chopping ingredients even on his day off. Kang himself still doesn't know what he'll do today. The restaurant manager suggests that the Emperor go to the library with Ha-Yoon. Kang doesn't know what a library is, but obediently heads there with the happy child. He is amazed that in this civilization there are places where anyone can read valuable tomes. Ha-Yoon jumps off the Emperor's hands and runs as fast as she can to look at the books. Kang, in turn, walks along the shelves, amazed at the number of books and how conveniently everything is arranged here. Ha-Yoon is already reaching for another book when she hears a voice behind her. "Girl, can I help you?" the librarian asks her. The child answers positively and points with her hand to the book that interests her. The young man takes the right book from the shelf, and she thanks him politely. At this time, the Emperor notices something is wrong. He looks at the librarian and senses a rather strong aura for his age, suggesting that this guy is also an awakened one. The Emperor doesn't know what's going on in this young man's life, but it's clear that things aren't easy for him. This librarian is not as strong as Ji-yoon, but he still has certain abilities. Ha-yoon also notices that the guy looks like he's not feeling well. The girl says that her uncle is also very worried about him. The librarian turns his gaze to the indicated person and realizes that this is the same delivery man from the Spring Pavilion. Kan learns that he is very popular on social media and is madly popular with women. And all the restaurant's customers are very surprised at how quickly he delivers their orders. The librarian sheepishly asks what power class this popular delivery man has and is incredibly surprised to hear the answer. The whole company sits down at the table, and the guy tells how he has to somehow earn a living, because raids are only allowed from a certain age, which he has not yet reached. That's why he takes on any job he's given and also volunteers at the library because it will give him a bonus on top of his stipend. The Emperor is surprised that there was not a single person who would help this guy. The librarian explains that his class C is the class that is neither bad nor good, so no one will sponsor it. Because he has no special abilities, his mother lives in poverty. Kan tells him that class doesn't decide everything in his life, and besides, his strength level can be increased. The librarian is sure that this does not happen, but the Emperor insists. He thinks the guy is giving up without even trying, and Kan offers to train him. However, he will not do this for nothing. In return, Kan asks to provide him with information about one country. The Emperor needs to learn everything he can about the OK dynasty. The librarian hears about this dynasty for the first time, but promises to try to find information about it. The Emperor is confident that if he traveled through time, then there should be at least some information about the OK dynasty left in history. This will logically explain why the magic of the OK dynasty and the magic of this time are so similar, although they are called differently. The librarian goes through all the eras known to the world but finds nothing similar. He is upset because he has already reviewed all the ancient dynasties. It becomes quite obvious that such a dynasty never existed. The guy is surprised and very sad that he couldn't help Uncle Ha-yoon. The Emperor mentally goes through all the dynasties that sounded like his civilization, but he had not heard of any of them. This means that among the kingdoms of the past on this earth, there was never a period of the OK dynasty. The man looks upset and the librarian asks if he is okay. The Emperor replies that he was just thinking and invites the librarian to a delicious jjajangmyeon at the Spring Pavilion. He didn't get the information he was hoping for, but at least he's now sure that he hasn't traveled back in time or been bewitched by the mages of the heavenly demon sect. I wonder how he ended up in this world. In the evening, the Emperor settles comfortably on the floor and begins to meditate. He remembers seeing a relic of his great-grandfather as a child. Then he was told that one day Kan would have to find this very relic, and only then will he be able to return home. The Emperor does not know what this strange memory is, but one day everything will become clear. A strange noise in the street distracts Kana from his meditation. Who's that hanging around outside the restaurant? I'll unscrew a little here to put him off riding a motorcycle forever. The fat guy mutters under his breath as he unscrews the nuts. Sang-wook asked him to do it, so the guy doesn't consider himself guilty. And who is this Sang-wook? A voice is heard behind the fat man. He screams in fear and turns towards the sound. A new courier from the Spring Pavilion stands in front of him. The guy grins and advises the courier to look for a new job because his boss intends to make an offer to the restaurant owner. Mr. Sang-wook makes good money in this area and is already getting tired of this successful restaurant. What nonsense, Kan snorts. This makes the fat man even more angry. The guy swings his fist intending to hit the courier. However, he fails to do so. Kan intercepts the fat man's fist and prevents him from completing his punch. The guy is confused. Why is this courier so strong? Kan believes that this fat man himself would do well to come to his senses. With these words, he puts 2 fingers to the man's forehead. A bright flash of power, and the fat man flies back quickly. He somersaults over his own body and hits the asphalt painfully. The Emperor watches this scene calmly. He asks the fat man to tell his master to leave the Spring Pavilion alone. The boy is terribly scared, so he runs away as fast as he can. Not far from the restaurant, the owner and his company are waiting for him. Sang-wook is unhappy that his henchman still hasn't called him and told him how everything went. Another gang member runs towards them, shouting loudly that Don Man is back. The fat man walks, leaning heavily on the shoulder of another guy. Sang-wook is furious. He gave this man another chance and he came back empty-handed. In his defense, Don Man assures the owner that the courier of the Spring Pavilion is not an ordinary person, but a real monster. The owner is furious, but he is not at all surprised that such a pathetic person got punched in the face. Sang-wook decides that even if this courier is so strong, he definitely won't be able to handle the entire gang at once. He gathers everyone and decides to see what kind of special courier this is. Then they place an order for delivery at the Spring Pavilion and begin to wait. The gang greets the arriving courier with bats at the ready. Can asks where he can get the dishes, but receives only ridicule in response. The gang tells him they're going to do some fist fighting. One of the guys kicks the courier bag over. Here Can notices that same fat man hiding behind the backs of his friends. Don Man justifies himself by saying that he told everything to the owner, but they didn't listen to him, for which he immediately receives a blow from his own colleagues. "Take off that stupid helmet already," one of the guys shouts and tries to pull the helmet off the courier's head. Can intercepts his hand and frowns in displeasure. He wouldn't advise a weakling like this guy to talk so brazenly to stronger people. Kang is confident that Dongman has conveyed his warning to everyone. The Emperor's grip on the guy's wrist tightens with every word he says. He'll have to teach them all a good lesson. After some time, the man returns back to the restaurant. He was a little late today. Can says the order was placed by people who really love to eat and even wash their own dishes afterward. Suntai is extremely puzzled by such an unusual act. The Emperor asks if the director knows a man named Gu Sang-wook. Suntae replies that this man used to work for them as a courier, but he constantly shied away from work and demanded a raise in salary. Kan explains that he had a conflict with this man and his friends. They behaved inappropriately, so we had to teach them a little lesson. Suntai suspects that Kang didn't teach them a little lesson. That's how it really was. All members of the robber group attacked Khan at the same time. However, even this did not help them achieve victory. The guys didn't even have time to really understand what happened. The Emperor scattered them all to the sides with one easy movement. The fat man could only watch this from the sidelines. He didn't even try to intervene to help his colleagues. After all, he told them that they shouldn't come here. Kan places his fingers on the body of one of the guys. "Now repeat after me out loud," he says. "I will never again plot evil against the owners of the Spring Pavilion." The man is shaking with fear and obediently repeats the words after the courier. Then Khan looks around for the leader of this whole gang, who started it all. The guys from the gang respond that the owner was going to watch everything from the side. Sang-wook, who had actually been watching them from around the corner, realizes it's time to leave. He rushes forward, but Khan manages to notice him. Sang-wook runs with all his might, but even that won't save him. Although he himself is sure that he managed to break away from the courier. That's why Kan's voice nearby makes him flinch in fear. He tries to get out of it by claiming that it was just a harmless prank. Kan grins, not believing it for a second. He is sure that diseased branches should be cut off before they infect the entire tree. Sang-wook panics and asks him not to come near, but of course Kang won't listen to him. A desperate, loud scream is heard in the silence of the street. Suntai is calmly preparing his supplies when he receives a message on his phone. This is the message Sang-wook sent him, begging him to forgive him for all the evil he had done. The message says that Sang-wook will reform, return to his village and work on the farm there. Suntae is surprised. How did Kang manage to raise this hopeless person? However, Sang-wook was once part of the Spring Pavilion, and the director is glad that the boy realized his mistakes. The doors of the restaurant open and Ji-yoon joins the company. Suntae is very sorry that he had to call her to work on her day off, but the girl is not upset at all. The restaurant is short-handed because So-yoon and Ha-yoon are away at a kindergarten event for Arbor Day. Brother Ji-yoon is also going to plant trees today as a charity. The girl smiles a little nervously, noting that her brother is a very kind person. She is embarrassed that Khan constantly asks her uncomfortable questions. The whole company sits down at the table and briskly gets to work. They are all unaccustomed to the fact that there is no one at home and they feel lost and lonely. Recently, many new portals have appeared in the mountains, but the Hunters Association ensures safety at this festival. The association sends strong enough employees to the Rostochek kindergarten, so even an A-class portal will not threaten the children. Suntae has worked as a loader for the association for a long time, but he has never heard of such a thing, so he is very surprised by Ji-yoon's knowledge on this topic. The girl quickly realizes that she has said a little too much. Suntae and Kang look at her with obvious suspicion. All she can do is to say that she can't tell them everything because it's not her secret. At this time, somewhere in the city center, a rather prestigious car is driving along the road. In this car, there is a young man whose facial features are vaguely similar to Ji-yoon's. He is extremely unhappy that he was invited to this event, despite the fact that today is his day off. His sister Ji-yoon was supposed to attend this event, but the young lady had urgent matters to attend and decided to send the one she thought would be the least useful to the event. And it's not hard to guess that she meant her younger brother. The girl in round glasses next to the young man hopes that he understands the seriousness of this event. After all, today some important person will come to this celebration. This person is considered to be a very influential person in their association. This man's name is So Sheol. and he is the only master of making S-class artifacts in the entire country. The master has a business meeting here, and Kim Ho-yoon, Ji-yoon's younger brother, goes to this event in order to make a good impression on him. He himself is extremely surprised and dissatisfied with this fact, because he forgot to read the additional materials that the girl in strict glasses sent him by email. If the young master does not make every effort in this matter, she will be forced to report this to the lady, and she will definitely become furious. Ho-yoon is sure that she will simply kill him for such neglect of work if she finds out about it. So today he will have to do everything possible and impossible to make the best impression. After all, establishing a relationship with the artifact master is no less important for the association than finding the only awakened zero level in the country. With these words, the assistant pushes the young gentleman out of the car so that he can greet the master. Ho-yoon is unhappy, but he has no other choice. He greets the elder, says hello politely, and says that his father told him a lot about the master. The master replies that it is a pleasure to meet you, but if that is all the young gentleman wanted to say, then it is time for him to go and have fun at the party and stop interfering with his time with his grandson. The guy thinks to himself that the rumors were true and this old man is quite vile. The master's assistant approaches the young man and apologizes guiltily, emphasizing that So Cheol is not always ready to communicate with other people. Ho-yoon returns to the car. He does not understand why his sister sent him here, because she knew for sure that everything would be exactly like this. He believes that she acted irresponsibly by dumping all her responsibilities on her younger brother on such an important day for the association. When Ji-yoon's assistant asks him about his sister's whereabouts, she replies that the lady went to talk to her idol. A few days ago, Kang learned that Ha-yoon wanted to find herself a shovel with a bunny on it. However, she didn't succeed, and he decided to make the girl such a shovel himself. So now she has her own bunny. And now Ha-yoon stands and barely holds back her tears. Her favorite shovel is lying on the ground, and such a beautiful bunny is broken in half. There is a group of equally upset and guilty children standing around her. Ha-yoon held on until the very end, but she still couldn't take it anymore and burst into loud tears. Her friend at this time begins to scold the other guys, who were not careful enough with Ha-yoon's shovel and accidentally broke it. Loud sounds coming from the children attract the attention of the old master. He approaches the kids and offers to fix the upset girl's shovel. Ha-yoon asks hesitantly if he can really do it. The master laughs kindly and replies that grandfather can do everything. He picks up the shovel and is amazed at how well the job was done. I wonder what kind of craftsman put so much effort into this shoulder blade. The old man calls his assistant Yoon-sik to show him such a skillful work. The master is not sure that even one of his students is capable of repeating such filigree work. The old man tells Ha-yoon that her uncle, who performed such a miracle, apparently loves her very much. The girl replies that she loves him very much too. The unknown craftsman worked very hard to make this shovel, and the elder will make every effort to return this shovel to its original form. With these words, the master calls upon his power. In a few seconds, he returns the shoulder blade to its perfect state, as if nothing had happened to it. Ho-yoon and his colleague from the association watch from afar. He thinks that this master needs a special approach, and then an unexpected thought occurs to him. He asks to convey to all assistants that they are changing their strategy regarding Master So Cheol. Lately, Kang So has taken up the habit of going straight to the bakery to get one very important thing when he receives his isolationist allowance. He goes there to buy the same roll that he first tried during his training at the association. At this bakery, the employee at the cash register immediately recognizes him. Kan walks along the shelves, sadly noting that all the rolls have already been sold out. The vendor confirms to a frustrated Kan that his favorite roll has long since run out. However, he set aside one roll especially for Kan. The man is very grateful to the seller for such care. Kan takes the roll, says goodbye to the seller and heads for the exit. At the door, the emperor encounters a pretty girl. She walks up to the counter and Kan watches as the salesman instantly turns red and starts talking nonsense to her. The emperor is a little surprised, but decides to think about it later. The man returns back to the spring pavilion. There he finally eats his favorite roll and puts the leftovers in the refrigerator. Kurangi's squeaker on his shoulder follows the treat with a sad, hungry look. She has already eaten a piece of the roll today, but Kan promises to treat her to another one tomorrow at breakfast. Gradually, night falls and the restaurant is plunged into silence. The dungeon rat has a very light sleep, so it wakes up as soon as it hears an incomprehensible rustling sound. Kurangi realizes that the strange sounds are coming from the kitchen on the first floor of the restaurant. Carefully, she gets out of bed and goes downstairs. But all she can see is an open refrigerator and crumbs left over from the roll. Kurangi jumps onto the refrigerator shelf to get a better look at what happened there. Suddenly, Kan's voice is heard from behind, and the squeaker trembles. But now she can no longer prove anything to anyone. The next morning, a disgruntled emperor tells the family that Kurongi ate the entire roll herself during the night. She denies everything, but it is obvious to everyone who is to blame for the disappearance of the roll. Then the door to the restaurant opens and a man enters. It was Hyuk, the salesman from yesterday's bakery, who came in. He says hello and walks inside with 2 large bags. In his bags there is beer for everyone and another piece of Kan's beloved roll. It's a kind of bribe, because the man really needs to talk to them. He has no face at all and it is obvious to everyone that he needs help. After some hesitation, Hyuk decides to ask Sun Tai how he confessed his love to his wife. The thing is, the girl Kan saw at the bakery yesterday has been a favorite of Hyuk's for 3 months now. He wants to confess his love to her, but he is terribly afraid of being rejected. The man does not understand how such an ordinary person like him can please such a beautiful and intelligent girl. Hyuk has clearly overindulged in drinking today, as his speech becomes very slurred and he falls face down on the table, exhausted. The men decide to put him to sleep in Kan's room. This is the right decision because Hyuk always puts aside a roll for the emperor, for which he is very grateful and wants to repay with the same care. Night falls, and Kurongi hears that strange sound from the kitchen again. However, this time the squeaker acts smarter and immediately pulls him towards the emperor's refrigerator. The man does not immediately understand what Kurongi wants from him, but still he obediently goes to the kitchen with her. The refrigerator door is ajar and the man pulls it towards himself. A strange creature appears before the eyes of Kan and the indignant Kuranga. This is a little fairy in a pink dress who is enthusiastically gobbling up the remains of a roll. Gradually morning comes and everyone gathers around the table again. However, this morning is different in that there is a little fairy sitting on the table. Her name is Do Soon, and she admits that she ate the entire roll. Flower fairies like her are usually attracted to flowers or, in this case, the honey contained in the roll, says Hyuk. What is a flower fairy? Kan asks, puzzled. Fairies are humanoid spirits that inhabit magical portals along with monsters. The magical monsters were exterminated, but no one touched the fairies because they do not harm people, and sometimes even help. Of course, sometimes you come across nasty fairies, but they still don't pose a serious danger to humans. Kan looks at the fairy with suspicion, but still gives in and forgives her for eating the roll. In return, the fairy must promise him never to steal from anyone again. The magical creature replies that she is very ashamed and wants to work to earn food for herself. But how can a fairy help in a Chinese restaurant? Kang So is puzzled. Hyuk, however, states that he could really use an assistant like that. To avoid it looking like he's shifting responsibility onto Hyuk's shoulders, Kang offers to train him in return. After all, with the help of training, a man will be able to win the heart of the girl he likes. So Yoon agrees with this position. She is sure that a man in good shape will definitely win women's hearts. Hyuk readily agrees, as he has long since neglected his appearance and this does not give him any self-confidence. This should be fun. Sometime later, So Yoon, Kang So, and Ji Yoon meet at the mall. The restaurant director's wife gathered them all here for one important matter. The head of the family has a birthday the day after tomorrow, and she wants to buy him something as a gift. But the girl doesn't know what exactly to give her beloved husband. Ji Yoon is delighted with the idea and offers to help, as she is terrible at giving gifts. The girl feels as if she is on a date with Kang, even though So Yoon is also with them. The conspirators agree to hide the gift in Kan's room. So Yoon thought about buying him shoes, but she wasn't sure if a man would wear them. Ji-yeon thinks that the boss has been very tired lately, so it would be a good idea to buy him some vitamins or healthy food supplements. So Yoon agrees to this proposal and they head to the stand with everything they need. At this time, Kan feels uncomfortable because all the women in the mall are looking at him again without taking their eyes off him. He tries to go home, but Ji-eun and So Yoon don't want to let him go. They suggest that he wear glasses and a cap so that no one around him can see how handsome he is. They walk further through the mall, looking at the display cases of toys for Ha-yoon. Suddenly, Kan hears strange sounds from afar. He looks around to find the source of the noise. At this time, the shopping center's customers are informed over the loudspeaker that illegals have entered the building and everyone should remain in their seats. In this world, those awakened ones who use their abilities to commit crimes are called illegal. It turns out that not all awakened ones have the same aura color, and this is the first time Kan has seen a person with this color. It is strange that the illegals decided to attack the shopping center because they cannot help but know that the security will immediately activate a protective barrier, through which no one will be able to pass except those who installed it. Perhaps this is a diversionary tactic, and the criminals are pursuing completely different goals. Kan asks the girls if there are any magic stones stored in the basement of this building. A building this big must have a lot of A-grade stones. Ji-yoon thinks that the security has everything under control and they shouldn't interfere with it. So Yoon is worried that with all the commotion they won't be able to get to kindergarten on time to pick up Ha-yoon. Kan realizes that he will have to help the mall security guards so that they can take the girl in time. He asks Ji-yoon to stay with So-yoon for a while. He himself says that he will go to the restroom for a short while. When the emperor goes down to the basement, he sees several corpses of guards near the doors. Kan provided them with first aid and saved them from death, but all the staff are in critical condition. Kan looks back at the half-open basement doors. Inside the room, he sees several men with guns at the ready. However, he only feels an aura of magical power from one of them. For a second, he thinks about what would be the right thing to do in this situation. After some thought, the man steps inside and blasts the criminals with a powerful stream of raw power. Now he has no one to interrogate, but he will still find out all the information from rumors and news about what happened here. He decides to leave everything else to the association. At this very time, the association's employees realize that they have been deceived and that the criminals are actually targeting magic stones, not goods from stores. The girl, who apparently is the boss among them, sends one of the employees to catch those involved in the theft. She herself, together with two other colleagues, decides to go down to the basement. The three of them quickly reach the place they need. For a few seconds, they freeze in front of the door, listening to the sounds coming from there. With a cry of, "Don't move!" the team quickly runs inside. However, there they discover that someone has already completely dealt with these robbers. At the Spring Pavilion, Kang tells director Sun Tae that he shouldn't work on his birthday, but for a man it's a normal day and he doesn't see a problem with it. However, for all the other family members and friends, this day is not at all ordinary. The door opens and So-yoon appears with a beautiful birthday cake in her hands and a happy Ha-yoon in a cute hat. They wholeheartedly congratulate the father of the family on this wonderful holiday and wish him happiness. A second later, Ji-yoon and Hyuk run into the Spring Pavilion restaurant with bags full of gifts in their hands. Sun-tae is extremely moved and cannot hold back his tears. To the cheerful cries of those congratulating him, he blows out the candles, and the whole family and friends go to celebrate. Time flies by very quickly, and now Children's Day has arrived. And since it's a day off, the restaurant staff will be able to make good money today because a very large number of guests are expected who want to taste the delicious jjajangmyeon. In honor of the holiday, loving parents are planning to take Happy Ha-yoon to an illusion show today. The only problem is that today is scheduled to be fully loaded, and the restaurant may not be able to handle the flow of visitors without the help of Ji-yoon, who has a legal day off today. That's why Kang So tells the director that he has taken it upon himself to find her replacement. At these words, the same guy from the library runs into the restaurant. Sun Tae is a little surprised and asks the young man to provide him with a medical certificate and a document of his guardian's consent for this job. After reviewing the documents, the director agrees to hire the guy and immediately sends him to wash dishes. The awakened one works very quickly, but in reality, it is not so easy for him because for this, the guy once had to train a lot. Even the awakened need to constantly improve their skills. Sun Tae, hearing these words, suddenly thought hard. Then why is it that Ji-yoon, who is a G-class awakened, works so much faster than this boy? Meanwhile, Ji-yoon is driving somewhere, securely fastened to the back seat of the car with a seatbelt. Her assistant tells the girl that they will arrive very soon. Once the girls get out of the car, Ji-yoon will need to greet the president first, and then the association chairman. She will also need to communicate with other guild executive directors. Ji-yoon doesn't understand why she needs such dark, bright makeup and a flashy red suit today. The assistant reminds her that the color red is very important and symbolizes their guild, the Red Dragon. For all children, the guild should be a role model and an object of aspiration. Ji-yoon, on the other hand, thinks that they can barely cope with each new portal, and this kind of makeup is completely out of place right now. However, this country still owes its well-being and security to them. Young lady, also do not forget about your status. You are the most beautiful and representative face of the company, the Witch of the Red Flame, the assistant reminds her. It is quite natural for a woman from a good upper-class family to be so beautiful, and there is no need to be ashamed of it. Previously, Ji-yoon wanted to look more mature with this kind of makeup so that she wouldn't be looked down upon. But now it has become just a part of her image. Suddenly, the assistant decides to ask Ji-yoon how her hobby of playing a lower-class person is going. But the girl does not think that this is a hobby. She replies that she actually works undercover in order to protect civilians if necessary. In response, she hears that it's good that she has a favorite activity besides work and guild affairs. Finally, they arrive at the place and stop. It's been a long time since I've been in the role of my hunter, Ji-yoon thinks. And at this time, not far from her, her friends from the restaurant Spring Pavilion are walking along the square. They notice a shooting range a few steps away, to which the worker of this tent actively invites them. Yi-Kang, along with Ha-Yoon and the guy from the library, head towards the entertainment that interests them. The man is very shocked that someone is throwing darts in broad daylight. He doesn't understand. Are these assassins who train here with complete impunity? Ha-Yoon laughs and convinces his uncle that it's just a harmless game. For each balloon burst in this tent, the participant of the game is awarded points. Ha-Yoon points with a small finger at the main prize in this shooting gallery. This is a huge, beautiful teddy bear in festive packaging. If a girl had one like this, she would be very happy. She might not even want sweets today, although Ha-Yoon definitely couldn't refuse chocolates. Kan invites his new friend to try playing and at the same time make friends with the girl. The guy would be happy to try, but his ability called Explosion is pretty useless and is unlikely to help him win. His class doesn't have a very strong ability in this regard, and he can only cause a small explosion to temporarily blind and distract the monster. This can be useful when fighting monsters in a dungeon, but in everyday life, this ability has almost no use. However, Emperor Kang is confident that this is not a problem. He approaches the seller and asks him to give them 3 darts. The man then hands these darts to the surprised awakened one. But he is not at all sure that he will be able to hit the ball with all 3 darts in one throw to earn 100 points for Ha-Yoon. Kan comes closer and teaches him how to properly tense his muscles and align his center of gravity when throwing. The most important thing is to focus on the process, the Emperor believes. The awakened one swings his arm a little awkwardly and throws the darts forward with all his might. Unexpectedly for himself, he hits the right ball with all 3 and gets 100 points. The guy is terribly happy, because he didn't expect at all that he was capable of such a thing. Ha-Yoon gets her teddy bear and happily moves on. Very soon, the mighty wizard Wu-Kang Kyul show that Ha-Yoon wanted to attend would begin at the square. The illusionists' show has almost begun, and they all have to run to get good seats. Kang follows Ha-Yoon, who rushes forward at great speed. He hopes that the girl doesn't trip and fall. At this time, there are 2 men in black masks and with weapons on the roof. They have an order that they received from above, and they cannot disobey, otherwise they themselves will be killed. They are a little afraid of getting caught. But the mercenaries have artifacts in the form of rings that will help them to hide unnoticed even from the most powerful awakened. These guys' only goal today is the bloody flower. They take up positions and look around carefully. Their target's real name is Kim Ji-yoon, also known as the Witch of the Red Flame. Ha-Yoon and her 2 companions at this time find a convenient place from where they can see all the tricks with levitation up close. Kan grumbled discontentedly that he himself could levitate, but he caught himself in time and turned it all into a joke. His young colleague likes the trick where a person is cut into 2 parts and then put back together. Kan is very surprised that such tricks exist in this civilization. After all, in his native world, exactly such tricks also exist and are encountered quite often. And even when you know it's a trick, it still looks very convincing. Out of the corner of his eye, Kan notices a glimmer of a familiar aura. Could it be Ji-yoon's aura? He looks around, searching for the owner of this power. His gaze falls on the VIP seats located nearby. The awakened one next to him enthusiastically points to some black rose. In South Korea, if you don't know who it is, you might be considered a spy, he says, because this girl is the best hunter of the Red Dragon Guild. And this is one of the 3 most important guilds in the world. Now Kang understands which class their Ji-yoon actually belongs to. The girl is trying hard to hide behind documents so that the guys don't recognize her. She didn't expect to see them here today and doesn't know how to behave. However, she loves looking at Kang So and decides to do just that. The Emperor decides that the girl must have good reasons for hiding her identity. The illusionist show begins with the spectacular appearance of the performers. Kan watches every action taking place on stage closely. He wonders how all these people can move different objects without the slightest use of magic. A man is distracted from watching the show by a rapidly approaching bullet. Fortunately, he manages to notice it in time and prevent a tragedy. Using his power, Emperor Kang changes its trajectory, and the bullet misses its target. The awakened ones nearby finally notice this. They realize that it was the aura-charged bullet that was used, and they manage to see the next bullet fired by the snipers in time. They increase the shield's power to protect their mistress, but for some reason the bullets are able to penetrate it, so they need to somehow miraculously stop it. It is not clear what kind of bullets these are, if they are capable of penetrating the strongest energy shield. Who is capable of this and why? Ji-yoon stands up from her seat, joining her colleagues. They look in shock at the bright glow that completely envelops her. "Aren't you going to look for the criminals?" the girl asks discontentedly, urging them to act. She is worried that her friends from the spring pavilion may have been hurt. At the square, employees are already organizing the evacuation of people. Hyun's parents run up to her to calm her down. And then the girl notices that her teddy bear is badly wounded. This completely upsets her, and she throws herself into her father's arms with tears. Because of these criminals, Hyun is crying and Kang is determined to take revenge on them for every tear. He tells his friends that the danger has passed, and now he needs to go to the toilet. The man quickly finds two unsuspecting snipers on the roof. They are so absorbed in their quarrel over a mistake that they don't notice anything around them. They failed to hit their target and now plan to shoot some civilians to cause panic and escape. Emperor Kang is furious upon hearing this. He will give these cruel people back their own bullets. The man calls upon his strength to deal with the problem. One move and both bullets fly back to their senders. And they both hit the mark. Only now do the snipers notice the unfamiliar man. Kang is furious because not only did they make Hyun cry, but they also decided to shoot at civilians. With his last breath, one of the snipers promises that this Kanu will not be forgiven. Kang asks who exactly will not forgive him, but the sniper does not have time to answer. The cries of the approaching association employees can already be heard, and the man decides that he will let them deal with all this on their own, and he needs to go back and calm Hyun down. The next day in the kindergarten, the teacher has fun with her students, but the ringing of the phone distracts her from the kids. She tells the children to behave well and goes out to answer. The children are left completely alone in the classroom. Sora is on the line, a girl is answering the call. From the call, she learns about the assassination attempt and understands that the children need increased security. Meanwhile, the kids get tired of being alone and run out into the corridor to see where their teacher is. Sora promises to call back and hangs up. Then she goes back to the classroom to her children. The teacher reminds the children that tomorrow is Parents' Day, so today, they will make paper carnations for them. Children really want to thank their parents, so they happily get to work. Hyun makes very beautiful carnations and Sora praises the girl for her success. The other children also try to give carnations to their mom and dad. They all start vying with each other to list who will give these beautiful flowers to whom. And only one boy continues to sit silently in his place, sadly hanging his head down. Sora notices this and squats down next to him. "You have a very beautiful carnation too, Jonghoon," she says. One of the boys on the next chair loudly asks if there is anyone for Jonghoon to give this flower to. After all, he doesn't have a mom and dad, so the boy lives with his aunt. Sora tries to calm the upset child, but it doesn't work very well. Hyun intervenes, loudly declaring that they are all bad children here for behaving like this. Imagine, if you didn't have a mom and dad, how would you feel hearing questions about who you're making carnations for? The girl screams. All the children immediately start crying, because none of them wants to not have a mom and dad. And Sora asks them what they should say when they've done something really bad. All the boys feel ashamed and look down guiltily. The children apologize to Jonghoon, and he generously forgives them. Hyun approaches the boy to hug and comfort him. She says it's time to stop crying and start making carnations. Jong decides that he will definitely give a flower to his aunt, and she will definitely be happy. At this time, one of the employees slowly wanders along the corridors of the Awakened Association. She thinks about a man named Kim Hae-chul, who is the guild leader and an A-class Awakened. He appeared in the Era of Chaos and became one of those great warriors who helped win the war against the monsters. Now it is the greatest guild of all in South Korea. This man sometimes even scares the girl a little, so she hopes that today will go without mistakes. She enters the leader's office to read him his schedule for today. However, the man stops the girl with one gesture. The guild leader asks to tell him how the investigation into the attempted murder of his daughter, Ji-eun, is progressing. The girl replies that the Silver Tower group is currently under suspicion, but there is no other news yet, which makes the leader very angry. The girl promises to find the one who so treacherously attacked the leader's daughter and hands him the documents about the Spring Pavilion, which he recently requested from her. Hae-chul carefully looks through the papers the girl brought. It turns out that Sun Tai, who is now the director of the restaurant, was once his old friend and helped him explore the dungeons. The girl clarifies what exactly she should do with this restaurant and its owner. Hae-chul replies that after his wife's death, Ji-eun lived only for revenge, and this is the first time she was interested in anything at all. Therefore, you should simply keep an eye on the Spring Pavilion restaurant and not touch it, and especially not its owner. The girl leaves, having remembered all his instructions word for word. Hae-chul himself bends down and reaches for the safe standing nearby. He enters a combination of numbers and opens the door. Inside lies something very dear to his heart. This is the first carnation from his daughter Ji-eun, and when he looks at this flower, any fatigue and irritation disappears. "Kang-so!" The boy from the library shouts, quickly running towards the man. Today, he came even a little earlier than usual. Thanks to the Emperor's training, he now delivers the same amount of newspapers, only much faster. To be honest, he had been feeling very depressed for a long time and was sure that his life would remain ordinary and boring forever. But thanks to these trainings, he felt that he could actually achieve anything he wanted. The boy thought he would never advance in class, but through training with darts, his technique becomes more and more perfect. But Emperor Kang was still deeply perplexed. This is the second time he hears that it is impossible to improve your class in this world, and it surprises him. The guy replies that it is obvious because even if you experience awakening again, which is unlikely in itself, even this does not guarantee a promotion. Khan is confident that awakening is just the beginning. Don't the people of this civilization understand this? The man decides to ask the boy what breathing techniques he knows, to which he receives in response only bewilderment and the question of what these techniques are. The awakened ones of this world do not know what breathing techniques are for, and that is why they have such poor control over their energy. The boy leaves, leaving the Emperor lost in thought. Suntai notices that Kang looks very worried today. The Emperor, in response to the question asked, also asked the director what he would do if he knew the secret of how to make all the awakened of this world much stronger. Suntai is sure that he would definitely share his secret with everyone. The man would not ask for any reward for this, because if his home and family were protected by even stronger awakened ones, then that would be quite enough for him. And since he himself is not capable of defending civilization, it is better to tell about this to those people who are capable. Suntai would very much like his daughter Ha-Yoon to live in a safe and peaceful world. Kan reflects that he is now living quietly undercover so as not to bring confusion into this world. In that case, if he reveals to everyone the secret of increasing strength, then there will be more order in the world. And this is exactly what he would like most of all. The Emperor makes an important decision to develop a breathing technique for all awakened ones. He immediately begins to carry out his plan. It takes him 2 nights in a row to develop the breathing technique. But finally, he finishes this difficult work. Now the Emperor can rest a little. Thanks to the created technique, the awakened will be able to concentrate the aura in their body and not lose it. Khan called his technique the method of the pure and righteous heart. The only thing left for him to do is to spread it. Kang recalls a recent conversation with Ji-eun about the president of the Hunters Association. The girl believes that he is a great man and his name should go down in history. He was always there where help was needed most. This is a man who more than deserves his position, because without him, South Korea might not exist today. Khan decides that a just, powerful man is the one who can take responsibility for distributing his manuscript. If he is truly trustworthy, the secret can be passed on to him. And Khan rushes to the exit of the restaurant. The president of the Hunting Association, unsuspecting, heads to his office. He presses the elevator button and gets off at the floor he needs. The association's staff greet him with respect. The president greets everyone politely and goes to his workplace. On his desk, he notices an unfamiliar notebook. Seeing the title, he decides that it is some kind of martial arts novel. At this moment, the secretary brings his favorite hot coffee. Taking advantage of the moment, the president decides to ask him. However, the secretary also sees this notebook for the first time. He reads the title and, just like the president, decides that this is another novel. The president laughs that in such novels there is always a hero who finds an ancient manuscript about martial arts and becomes stronger. If reading books gave such abilities, it would be wonderful, he believes. And yet, what kind of notebook is this? The handwriting is not very beautiful, but quite energetic. The man opens the notebook to the first page and begins to read. The more he reads, the more he falls into a state of shock. Not believing his eyes, the president continues reading. The method described in the notebook involves strengthening the connection between the dantian and the energy core. This is what allows a person to use their aura without unnecessary losses, which makes the awakened one much more effective in battle. A drop of sweat runs down the president's temple. He is not sure that this is all not a dream. Without noticing the passage of time, he consumes 1 cup of coffee after another. Those who study this method will realize that the modern class system of the awakened is not decisive. This system is only the beginning of human development. The author of the Method of a Pure and Righteous Heart shares it with humanity free of charge and only hopes that this method will be used only for the purposes of peace and security. Scientists around the world are conducting research into the possibility of increasing the power of the awakened. But no one has found an answer yet, and all research has been in vain. Who could write something so grandiose? The method is written very convincingly, but how can we find out who brought this notebook here and for what purpose? The president scrolls down the page and sees a symbol he already knows. This is the only trace of the awakened zero level that the association has found. If he really is the author of the method, then there is no doubt about its effectiveness and good intentions. The author hopes that this method will not cause him any personal trouble. The president of the Hunters Association has no objections. Let everything be as this awakened one wants. Even the strongest Li Xin has problems in the area of energy conservation. It will be interesting to see him when he reads this method. We need to contact him immediately. The president decides. Li Xin arrives at the association almost immediately after the call. However, his face looks displeased. The president knows how a hunter does not like to leave the house without a serious reason. So he immediately gives Li Xin a notebook and asks him to read it. After all, it is there that he can find answers to all his questions. The guy opens the notebook and runs his eyes over the even lines. The president laughs heartily at the expression on the young man's face. It's the method of a pure and righteous heart, the man says. Li Xin flew overseas several times to meet with awakened zero-class people and asked them how they dealt with their wild energy. However, there he received only stupid answers that did not help him in any way. And this notebook really looks like a real solution to the energy problem, and Li Xin really wants to know where it came from. The president explains that when he came to work, this notebook was already lying on the table as a gift from the awakened zero level, and he still does not understand how it got there, because even the cameras did not catch anything. Can I learn this method first? Li Xin asks hopefully. The president replies that this is precisely why he called him today, because even if there are any side effects, it is Li Xin with his S-class who will be able to deal with them. The first awakened zero class in Korea. Who are you? The hunter thinks. After some time of studying the notebook, the great hunter can finally go outside without fear. While leisurely strolling down the street, he decides to take a break and rest a little. The guy sits down on the nearest free bench and looks up at the sky. The sky is unusually clear today. How long had it been since he left the house and basked in the sun's rays as carefree as he did now? Memories flash through Li Xin's mind of people cheering with admiration for the S-class hero who miraculously appeared. It was in this that the hopes of the whole nation were fulfilled. He was the first awakened one who managed to close the S-class portal. But his comrades were killed, and the young hunter began to fear his own power. And since then, he lives in a constant struggle with his power, because the more he tries to master it, the more it gets out of control, making him more and more alone. Thanks to Li Xin, many people were able to return to their normal, peaceful lives. He continued to live, and it was not at all easy for him to cope with his superpower. But the guy, even after reading the notebook, did not master the method completely, so the power continues to get out of control. Li Xin must not relax. For a long time, he hated his own strength. But thanks to mastering the method of a pure and righteous heart, he was finally able to gain the upper hand over her and break through the barrier of the zero class. The author of this method is actually a benefactor of Li Xin. The hunter's thoughts are drawn by a vague movement that he notices with his peripheral vision. Li Xin sees the courier, and he seems to have a superpower related to speed, which means his class is definitely at least B. Delivery from the restaurant Spring Pavilion, the courier says at this time. He places the ordered dishes on the table for the customers, adding that the restaurant also gave them a portion of fried dumplings as a gift. Li Xin watches this guy carefully. He quickly finds the address of the named establishment on the internet. The Spring Pavilion is located very close, and the hunter decides to go there. Kang returns back to work where Ji-yoon suggests that he drink some water and rest. After taking the first sip, the man starts coughing. But the problem is not in the water at all, but in the young man who at that moment enters the restaurant doors. Kan sensed his incredibly strong aura even in the park. Meanwhile, Li Xin greets politely and comes in. So Yoon immediately invites him to sit at any free table. But Li Xin has already noticed Ji-yoon, and he is extremely surprised that she is here at all. Suntae notices that the girl is familiar with their new guest and asks who this young man is to her. Ji-yoon panics a little. She can't think of anything better to say than that it's her cousin. She says that her little brother has such a standard face that everyone around him thinks that they have seen him somewhere before. But this is not true at all. The girl invites him to try jjajangmyeon, and Li Xin obediently agrees. Ji-yoon comes to his table and she is very unhappy, because if this guy has another attack of uncontrollable energy, then everyone around him will suffer. Li Xin reassures her that such attacks are now a thing of the past. He found a solution, and at the next training session at the Ji-yoon Association, he will definitely find out everything. The girl calms down and moves away from the table, ordering the guy to be silent in front of these people because they think that she is the most ordinary person.